Hey everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Table and Happy New Year. 2026 is going to hold a lot of unknowns for the City of Farmington, a lot of things to be excited about, but certainly one that we want to reminisce about today, and that is the life and experience of our 20-year tenured city manager, Rob Mays, who is retiring in June of 2026. We have Rob on the show today to talk about the good times, the bad times, the things that have been most important to him, and the challenges he foresees facing communities as we move forward. Great episode. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Happy New Year. It's 2026. Welcome to the Mayor's Table, first episode of the year, and we have my favorite guest on.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, we have a lot of really good guests, but
Yeah.
I think you're my favorite guest. And maybe I'm biased, but when you get the city manager, the City of Farmington, who's been here for 20 years, and the breadth of knowledge and experience of operating what I would consider the best city in America.
I agree with that.
I've just decided to use that term now. I used to be like, well, we're the best city in New Mexico, and we're maybe the best city in the region. I don't know, man. The things that we're doing right now, we're the best city in America. Things are working really well.
They are, which kind of leads to a lot of what we're talking about today and the direction we're headed.
Yeah. Well, we were going to really focus this kind of on the state of the city, the state of the city is good. And there's a lot of good economic opportunity that's going to line itself out over the next few years, and very fortunate for some private investment that's coming in here. But the city as an organization is doing some fantastic things. But we're going to transition some of this talk into the Rob May show, because we've seen what's in the newspaper, Rob.
Yeah.
And what's in the newspaper is a salute to your 20 years of excellent leadership at the city level, and developing people and teams whose whole dedication and mission is to serve the public. And that 20-year period is going to commence with your retirement on June 30th of this year,
Yep.
which is still 6 months, but seems like it's going to be here before we know it.
It'll fly by, that's for sure. Yeah.
So we just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit on this Mayor's Table to ensure the public knows, what's going on. Why is Rob retiring? What are we going to do, to replace 20 years of experience and knowledge and leadership, and just kind of reassure all of those here in our community about where we're going?
Well, one thing's for sure. We can definitely have the community rest assured that the future will be bright. The right people are in place, and, we'll talk more about the team in a minute, but just first and foremost, it's amazing to me that 20 years has gone past. It has absolutely been the professional privilege of my life to serve the citizens of Farmington, the mayors, the city councilors, and the employees for these 20 years. It snapped our fingers, and it flew by.
Yeah, 20 years, 3 mayors. I was going to try and count the number of councilors that you've served at their pleasure.
Yeah.
But just, and just thinking back, my time serving with you since 2014, just the challenges and things that have occurred during that time. And I wondered if you might share maybe what highlights. Let's start with highlights. What are some of the highlights of a 20-year city manager
Yeah,
career?
well, I mean, when you talk high level and see what comes to mind first and foremost, it's absolutely clear. The most important and most significant thing that comes to my mind is the people. The team. We talk a lot about the team approach, and it's been an honor to be the coach of this team. But as we always remind people, the coach's job is to mentor the team, prepare the team. But I am so much aware that the game is won or lost on the field. So any success that anyone attributes to me and my role was only that of coach. It was the players out on the front line that do the job day in and day out, from our department head team to our supervisors, to the front line that's out from mowing the grass to fixing the streets, to all those things. That's where any measure of my success is completely 100% due to them. And I hope that they know that, because it's very, very clear to me.
Well, I had an opportunity to attend the management group meeting for the first time, and I did appreciate that each one of those department heads, when they got up to speak, talked about how important the culture is at the City of Farmington, and it's a culture. It is the team culture, and that each one of them basically made the comment that I can't do my job, my team can't do their job without you all, and what you all bring to the table, and just to see the level of again, I'll use the word knowledge and experience. Just at the podium when they were given those, I was like, man, these guys, a lot of these folks have been here for dozens of years, and they're in these roles, and some are brand new. We got a brand new public works director, her very first management group meeting, and she stood up there and spoke like she had been here for 20 years. I mean, her knowledge already of what she's been able to take in and assess. Again, it speaks to that amount of dedication to team building.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are delegated and entrusted to the city manager, but there's no other piece of that more important that plays out for the impact on the public than the decision of who is appointed in those department head positions. Obviously, they are the key to our success and the people that they lead.
Sure, that's every organization, and that's what I like about it. You know, having come up through corporate America and kind of laid out that kind of plan and vision for stores that I ran on my own, understanding just to the degree of dedication that you have to have at your level. I mean, we're talking 1,200 employees?
At any given time, around 1,000.
Yeah. And, what do we have? 15 department heads, something to that degree. And then in the middle management, we're talking
around 100
individuals, and how important it is to carry the message from the top through that part of the leadership ranks to ensure that, again, those individuals that are out on the streets every day serving, that it carries all the way down. It's critical.
You talk about that culture of collaboration and looking out for each other, and that's critical because it speaks to stewardship on behalf of the public. When our 15 departments can work together, share resources, share people, share equipment, share tools, share knowledge, all that translates to effectiveness and efficiency and good stewardship on behalf of the public.
Yeah. Well, somebody made the comment that, we work and we live together. We are a family, and we spend probably more time together than some of us do with our families on a day in and day out basis. And just so, again, how important it is to have that level of collaboration is pretty incredible. Well, I like that you started with that.
Yeah.
Because that is a huge highlight. Because what you're leaving now, I'm just going to comment on this. We're going to move into a new era of city leadership in some ways. Obviously, you won't be there after June, but the individuals that are going to be moving in to fill that void are people who have been a part of this culture and organization for a number of years.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll drill down more on it later on in this segment, but no question, if I would consider it a huge failure on my part if I left without leaving the organization ready and even to move and be better off than it is after I leave. That's been my number one, objective, certainly in my stage and season of my career, coming to this in the second half of my career, mentoring and developing people and really helping them grow and find their mission in life and their full potential is the most fulfilling part of the job by far.
It's something that you were well trained to do. Actually, it's kind of interesting the way life's journey will take folks.
It's true.
I don't know if you ever imagined yourself being a city manager. Maybe not a city manager for 20 years, but the fact that it came into the cards. When I speak to kids about, my kids who are moving into college or in college, I tell them always keep all your doors open. I mean, you never know who's going to come knocking and what opportunities are going to exist. And so long as you're in the right place, doing the right things, I mean, there could be endless opportunities. So don't be shy and don't turn away from potential things that maybe you didn't consider doing because you never know where that may lead you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then, what comes to mind very quickly after the team that we have in place now is the gratitude for the people that have come before us, whether it's generationally, the shoulders that we stand on. I think of elected officials and citizens in 1964, made big decisions like voting to put in something long-term thinking that people said we could never need, something like the Farmington Lake and having a reservoir and putting into place the kinds of resources and to build the future that we live on. So we talk now, the things that we're doing are generational. for generations to come, people came before and did that. So I think of, former city managers, former mayors, former department heads, people who have long been forgotten, that we know we stand on their shoulders. I mean, for me particularly, some names come together that were instrumental, certainly for me. The previous city manager, Bob Hudson, who had a full career here in our Parks Department and then finished out his time as city manager. He's the one that recruited me and brought me into the city. I don't know that anybody would have ever perceived 20 years later that I would have been the city manager, but I stand on the shoulders of Bob Hudson, who believed in me and hired me as his assistant. And previous mayors, Bill Stanley was the first mayor that took the chance on me and appointed me, and Tommy Roberts, and of course the long tenure you and I have had together. And I often think about my key deputies, my right-hand people that have been instrumental. And so it's not just the department and team, but that second in command that means so much. Bob, I only had three. Bob Campbell was my first deputy and had a long tenure. And then Julie Baird, who came up in the organization, had a long tenure. And then now with Shauna Reeves as deputy. So those have been the people that have been so close to my side. And again, any successes that I've had, probably they deserve more credit than I do.
It's very humble of you to say that. Those are brilliant people. I've always been incredibly impressed by the individuals that have served in those roles. Bob being the first deputy that I got to work with, and I learned. I mean, as coming in brand new into local government, Bob just was such a great teacher in opening my eyes to things and understanding what local government can and can't do and why those limitations exist. Things that I carry forward with now. Julie, of course, is so creative, and walking around Civic Plaza in downtown and seeing kind of Julie's hand in the lights, and council approved things, but Julie brought the plans forward to say, here's what we can do and here's what they can cost, and so you see you see their marks on the city, and excited for what Shauna Reeves is going to do. Yeah, and Shauna, so the public knows. We've obviously at the time that discussions came in about your retirement and what the next succession would look like, Shauna, of course, in my mind, was absolutely, without a doubt, the individual that would be far and above, better than any possible candidate we can bring in from the outside. 22 years experience in the city of Farmington, started out as a part-time lifeguard, worked her way up through the ranks, and have been provided opportunities and experiences that you knew would help prepare her for this moment.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most important things we can talk about today is to lend context for your listeners on the decisions we've made and why you made the decisions. And from my perspective, again, my number one responsibility is to build the right team and to ensure that at any given point the team is ready to step in when I'm gone. And we've been very intentional over the years about developing leaders at all levels, the department heads, and certainly those that were able to move into my office in key spots. And Shauna is one that we identified years ago as a special person with a lot of talent and ability. And so we began to even move and direct her career choices to mentor her into this office. And so we brought her into our office from the Parks and Rec department to work as a project analyst and some other special things. And that was back when Tommy Roberts was mayor, and you came in. She was enjoying that a lot, but we had an opening in Parks and Rec, and I sat her down and said, you're going back to Parks and Rec to be director this time. And she wasn't necessarily thrilled with that because we were really enjoying the things we were doing there. And that was a hard move, but I recognized that there were lessons that she would learn doing that job that couldn't be learned any other way. She went down there, did a fantastic job, and then we brought her up in a succession plan for Julie when Julie would be leaving as deputy, and then she's moved into deputy. So not only the big picture of mentoring people for the overall culture of the organization, but the specific people to be ready to step into those unique positions. And I would have considered it a great failure on my part. In the worst case scenario, if the city was in a position that it had to go out and do a national search for a cold turkey candidate to bring people in that didn't know our community, didn't know our city, I would have considered that a failure if I hadn't had people in position that you all had that confidence in. Obviously, it was your all's decision to make. but my job was to have them ready. So yeah, as my 20th year approached, you and I talked a lot about the future and what's coming, and ultimately, I had the benefit of 2 years of knowledge that Julia was leaving
Right.
to prepare for that. And clearly I wanted you to have a lot of time. And so, we settled this 6-month time period was important because in case you and the council decided you did want to do a national search, even though I don't think that you wouldn't find anybody better, as you well know, and it'd be a very expensive process and a risky one of disruption. But I wanted to give you that time. And then, of course, as you and I talked it through with the organizational meeting being required on January 20th, it just makes sense. And you and I came up with this idea of kind of this soft handoff that you would go ahead and appoint her on January 20th. She'd move into the official role, and then I'd remain my last 6 months in a capacity of ongoing mentorship and support to everyone in that transition. I think it's a great plan.
I think it is too, and obviously one that's not been voted on yet. So,
Yep.
I will be making that nomination to the council on January 20th. My hopes, and based on the open meetings that we've had in these discussions at the time that you read your retirement statement, council resoundingly is in support of this plan
Yeah.
also. So I don't foresee anything changing in that regard. But I think it's important for people to understand the kind of disruption that would come, if we brought somebody in from the outside, and the length of time it would take for them to get acclimated to the city organization itself, let alone the broader context of living in Farmington and all of the intricacies of who we are as a community. So there is no doubt in my mind, and the department heads reiterated this in the meetings that we had with them. They were in full support of Shauna in that role as well. So for her, that's got to really be a great feeling that she knows she's made the right steps, created the right relationships in order to ensure that when she steps into this role, that she's heading off on the right foot.
Yeah, it's very affirming to all of us, I think, as this unfolded, to hear the affirmation from many other levels, from the city council, department heads, particularly that she has to step up in that leadership role with them. To hear all of their votes of confidence was very affirming that we were on the right path. Yeah. And you can't overstate the consequences of disruption. Whether we lucked out and found somebody on the national scene and brought them in, even if you found the right person, you're talking years before they would reach their stride of effectiveness. And in the meantime, the uncertainty and the disruption, we have 15 department heads that serve at the pleasure of the city manager. As soon as there's any uncertainty there, they all start looking, they all start thinking, what does this mean to me? And so if you think about, because of good planning, good succession, which is, again, a hallmark of the leadership culture of our organization, within about a week period, obviously you and I had been talking about it, but we were able to unveil this change is coming, and within about a week period to translate through all the organization. And a week later, there's certainty. Again, council has to ratify that decision in January, but you can't overstate the value of that to keeping an organization moving and not losing any ground. I mean, you talked earlier about it, and you've just did an episode with the council. The momentum that's in place, the projects in place, the economic opportunities. Our community development department is busy. We have some big things coming to this town, and of course the quality of life projects, and we'll talk a little bit about those in a minute. But we don't want to lose any ground for this city.
No, because it's taken a long time to build to this moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of variables have had to kind of fall into place. And I wonder, Rob, just looking back on the 20 years, what was the toughest era in your mind of your term?
Well, I mean, clearly, we joke a lot in my annual presentation that I became, I've been here 20 years, 18 of that was as 18 and a half of that as city manager, and about a year and a half as assistant city manager. But during those times I was interim, so I've actually done 20 budgets that I led the process of, just kind of the way it fell in between the city manager searches. And But the first year I became city manager, my first accomplishment on behalf of the city was to oversee the loss of 20% revenue to the city. Kind of wondered if it was my fault after 40 years of double-digit growth, and then
Right.
I think that the world recession had something to do with it.
Right.
But clearly we lost 20% of our revenue overnight, and that's what I was thrust into. And I remember having a conversation. These kinds of challenges make or break a leader. I mean, in many ways, it might have been the best thing that ever happened to me, was to be able to lead through some really, really challenging times, and kind of established, I think, my tenure from the very start with a lot of credibility with the elected officials at the time and the community and the department heads. We got through that without any major reductions in service. We didn't have a single layoff, and we didn't cut anyone's pay. We had a couple years of pay freezes, but all across the nation, they were shutting fire stations down, letting parks go brown, cutting pay, cutting workforce, and we were able to get through that. And a lot of smart people worked on those problems. But clearly, I look back on that as accomplishment that I'm proud that I had a part in that time.
Trial by fire is
Yeah.
what they call that.
Yeah.
And I think that I think, again, when you think about the journey, that probably led to what much more successful years overall, because those hard discussions and your leadership style through that, those are hard discussions to have with department heads. That's a hard discussion to have with city councilors. Like, what are you willing to cut? What are you willing to do? And I know in 2016, I think we had a little dip.
Yeah.
And what are we willing to do here, councilor? Are we willing to close this facility or move services from this facility to another facility so we can consolidate that? And those are not fun discussions, because guess what? Nobody wants to close any service, any facility. We don't want to cut back on any services, even if that service is used by only 15 people.
People love big government, man. They like to say they don't, but they do.
Right.
They want lots of services. And every single thing we do, to your point, is the most important thing we do to somebody. And so, but those early days, I mean, one of the things that I think where we established a lot of credibility was we were able to find efficiencies. We were able to truly do more with less. We implemented a lot of technology, a lot of reorganizations, and so we actually were able to squeeze, I think, some inefficiencies out, and we're able to maintain a lot of those services just by getting a little better at what we did, and again, adapting technology, and our employees just stepped up. They really did. I mean, we had many cases where, by attrition, we probably cut the workforce by probably 20%. Didn't have to lay anybody off, but as people retired, people absorbed those jobs, and it was kind of exciting time too. I think people had a real sense of mission to get through that on behalf of our community. And we used to talk then, we're going to get through this by serving our way out of it to our public, demonstrating our relevance, how important we are, and how important their services are, dispelling the myths of local government isn't like state and federal government.
No.
We aren't wasteful, and we can't operate in a deficit. We can't print money. We really did take pride as an organization in stewardship as one of our key values, and not wasting resources.
Thinking about projects, and I had this question on my mind, but I thought, man, how hard of a question would that be, because of the amount of projects that were completed in the last 20 years? Like, what would be your favorite project, or what things stand out? And it's funny, you made the comment, like, everybody in town has their very special place, their special thing that the city does, whether it's the pools, or it's parks, or it's the ball fields, or whatever the case may be. Whatever's relevant to them at the time is obviously going to be the most important thing to them. So as a city manager, what do you think in your mind?
Well, I mean, I jotted down, well, first of all, how I'm not even comfortable talking about the accomplishments that just happened to happen while I was city manager. So many people had a part in that.
Right.
Mayors, elected officials, department heads. And so I did have the privilege of being at the helm during, the last 20 years. We've gotten a lot done. There's no doubt about it. But I'm probably most proud of, honestly, the invisible infrastructure that no one sees or even knows about and takes for granted. We've watched communities all around us let infrastructure go because either the elected officials or the city leadership weren't honest, and water lines falling apart, wastewater treatment plants, water tanks, just neglect the infrastructure. Nationally, that's the case. Nationally, the public works structures in our nation have a D+ rating, across the board. And so I am very proud of, wastewater treatment plants, water treatment plants, dozens and dozens of miles of water lines replaced, sewer lines replaced,
the electric utility.
We
how much we've invested in that.
We've invested millions. We've replaced multiple of our substations and lines and poles, and just completed and going to have the ribbon cutting next month for another, after losing San Juan Generating Station, our first generation plant is coming online next month, 18 megawatts of power additional. So I'm probably most proud of those things that tend to be invisible and taken for granted. And then of course, as we call them, the quality of life projects. I mean, we've replaced a lot of things and we built a lot of new things. I mean, I think back in the different eras of projects, the museum expansion, the water parking up Brookside, Fire Station 1, of course, the golf course renovation, All Abilities Park, probably in some ways that's a signature project in my mind. Gateway Park, the new PD. I mean, that was a fun. I mean, we bought that building for $3 million. Put another $3 million in, and it's probably worth 20.
Right.
I mean, those were fun things to be a part of. Some of those projects.
The regional animal shelter.
Just
think about how important that was.
That was actually one of my first blue ribbon assignments from way back from the first mayor to reestablish that committee and get that project going again. Yeah, the animal shelter, Pinyon Hills Boulevard.
Oh yeah.
Obviously.
I just think of the number, some of these projects, just thinking about the number of community members who had such a hand. Yeah. And we talk a lot about private-public partnerships, and every cause needs a champion. And the regional animal shelter had champions.
Sure did.
One of those, All Abilities Park
very
had
similar
champions.
to All Abilities, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And you kind of, as a whole, every one of these projects, a little bit different ways we funded them. But the last kind of batch of projects, the last 5-6 years, which have been, unbelievable. Really proud of the kind of the soundbite, and you've talked about this. We leveraged only, 78% of all these most recent projects were funded by outside dollars, pretty much federal dollars filtering down, and only 22% local taxpayers. So that's something I'm super proud of that my team really gets the credit for. I mean, just last week we got another announcement of another $4 million of grants that they went out and found, and these are people doing the job, and they've made an unbelievable impact on our community.
Is there any particular project or thing that you wanted to get done that you didn't?
So I wanted to finish the river trail, all the way from one end to the other. We've added a lot of miles during my tenure, particularly to the west, but we didn't get it connected all the way out to Pinyon Hills Boulevard. We're out to design right now and final DOT approval on the North Trail extension, so it's going to happen, but I'm probably going to miss the ribbon cutting for that one.
Maybe we could dedicate a bench over
there
for Rob Mays.
Yes. Yeah. I did tell Carol when I die, I do want a bench on that trail. So.
Well, you use it a lot. When people bring back feedback on what's going on the river trail, I always look to Rob because he's typically on that river trail weekly. That is interesting. I know that was one we had talked about I think it was at one point we said we'd have it all done by 2021. And that's just a very complicated section over there that extends from the museum north.
There's some serious environmental issues there with and degradation of the river bank and things. Nothing simple.
No. As all very expensive. Lots of engineering involved.
Yep.
Yeah. Looking at we spent a lot of time talking about challenges for municipal government in general.
Yeah.
And kind of looking at the landscape and where you're heading at now. I mean, what do you foresee in your crystal ball is going to be the major challenges that are going to face local government?
Well, and I'll let you pin me down on some much more specific things, but generally speaking, and I do not mean this as an exaggeration or a platitude, the complete lack of civility that is existent, that I've seen change even our own community over the last 20 years, is, I think, the biggest challenge to all of our way of life that we know. Because whether it's local government, I don't know who, frankly. I've enjoyed my career as a city manager, but I would never encourage one of my children to do it. I watch our elected officials, the way they're abused and treated, the way my employees are abused and treated. I see that truly as the greatest challenge, how we're going to maintain a workforce when all they get is so much criticism, so much harassment. That's the reality of the situation. And that really does keep me awake at night for the future. You know, the objective challenges of, you know, workforce shortages, wages, those kinds of things, well, those have always existed, and we'll be able to work through those things. I'm actually much more worried about this kind of intangible lack of civility, that people feel so comfortable treating city employees as an institution that isn't real and are willing to be so critical. And I worry about who will be willing to go into these jobs in the future. I worry about who will be willing to be an elected official for the right reasons in the certain environment that we face. And so that really is, I know it's kind of a depressing thing to say, but I think people need to really, how they treat their teachers, how they treat all government workers and not forgetting that human element while taking for granted the services that they provide.
No, it's a really interesting discussion, and I think one that we all really need to have. We need to have it in our homes. We need to have it in our schools. We need to, because it is interesting the way that, obviously for you personally, the way that it ends up affecting government, local government particularly. But I think across the board, just the level of disrespect for fellow human beings has grown dramatically. What do you attest that to?
You know, I mean, I a lot of it too. I think I haven't even thought about that too much. I mean, I think the political environment as a whole being obviously so polarized is a piece of it. I do think social media and people isolate themselves. They don't have to interact with each other. I don't know that I know all the reasons.
I think those are two big ones. Yeah. I think from the top down, and I've mentioned this before, just even recently on my radio show, just talking about the fact that leaders in the top level aren't saying the right things, that are reinforcing those traditional American values that talk about the respect for your fellow human being, the respect for our differences.
Especially when we disagree. We can
right, and when we disagree, we can still have conversations without having to be hateful. And I think that level of contempt and hate and the way that it can all of a sudden just be triggered out of nowhere, it's really interesting the way things have ramped up. But I think it's ramped up because it's fueled by what you had said in regards to social media. I'm a keyboard warrior. I can say whatever I want to say. I don't actually have to look somebody in the eye to do it. And I feel like I'm vindicated in some way by making this horrible statement and putting it out there for people to read. And frankly, because of that reason, my involvement on social media is dramatically decreased.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
And because I don't want to be involved in that. That's not a world that I want to exist in. I want to exist in this world here where you and I can sit down and we can discuss the problems or discuss your concerns in a manner that is respectful to one another, and understanding that we typically, and I will say this on behalf of the City of Farmington, we typically are always trying to find a way to come to a win-win scenario. Okay, whatever that case may be. And by the way, we spend a lot of time investigating things that probably we can tell right off skin surface isn't worth a whole lot of time digging into because of the reasons that we already know, in evaluating that problem. But we typically give the person the benefit of the doubt and sit down and say, how can we help? Where are the issues, and do we play a part in solving it? The fact that we go above and beyond, and I'm going to use the collective as our city, because that's what's impressed me so much about your team, is their willingness to do that. And you personally, your willingness to do that. And there's times you become impatient with me because I continue to poke on something that you're like, I'm telling you, man, this is where we're at, and we've spent this time and we're doing it. Yeah. But I have to come to my own terms with it as well to understand that there isn't something that we can do to find a way to get to yes. But that honest to God, if anybody's listening to this, working with the City of Farmington, know that they're always trying to find a way to get to yes when yes is possible. What we can't do, this organization or any other local government within the state of New Mexico do, is just give away things for free to people. Yeah. That is something we can't do, because when you open Pandora, one, it's against the law, right. The anti-donation clause exists. But once you start for one, you have to do for all. And we don't have the budget to do that. No. The federal government can print money and make programs and feed all these other things that they are now cutting back on because they shouldn't have been done from the beginning. But we've created an entitlement environment, and I think that's part of the reason why people, they think you should, your government, you should just do this for me.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Or that people think that things are free. Electricity isn't free. Clean water isn't free.
Trash pickup is not free.
And it's very expensive.
Landfills are expensive.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, just to that point, when we're investigating and trying to get to yes, people kind of immediately think that there's a financial motive. Government employees don't get paid more or less.
And neither do elected officials.
No. And so it's actually,
I know there's been bad elected officials, so
yeah.
I can
mean,
certainly understand distrust in that regard. But
my point is, it's to our benefit to say yes, because then someone likes us instead of criticizes us. I'm always relieved when someone files a complaint on something. I go, oh, yes, it's our fault. We can fix it, and now you love me.
Right.
But most of the time it's not, and we're bound by law, and we have limitations, and so those are challenges, and that's kind of a broad one. But the more specifically, we talked about the workforce issues are a challenge. The shortage of the keys people. A couple of years ago, we couldn't hire people to clean the bathrooms on the trails,
right,
or pick up the trash, and lifeguards.
Lifeguards,
and there's
national shortage of lifeguards, which is the most perfect high school job.
Immediate impact on the citizens, and they don't understand why we would have a pool closed, or literally there's not people willing to
why we can't
work.
Why we can't have the beach open and the aqua park every day, and those things. Interestingly enough, just in regards to that, and this is just a side note, when I saw Farmington Municipal Schools posted a graph that basically showed the level of job involvement for high schoolers has dropped. I mean, we're talking 30-40%. I mean, they're just not going into the workplace, and we need parents to encourage their kids. That's an important life skill that they're going to need for the rest of their life, working for other people, being accountable for themselves and responsible for those around them. I mean, we're losing out on that.
And another interesting one, again, and these challenges aren't to cry the blues. I mean, we've always overcome these things, and we continue will, but might surprise people is the supply chain challenges we have. Like you maybe noted, like for example, we have a traffic light at Hutton and Main Street that's got hit by that's another issue, crazy drivers, but knocked out that light, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe longer.
More.
We are still waiting for that. We can't buy those parts. So we're now looking at how do we double down and buy extra parts, keep more in inventory. But these are very expensive.
But it's wild to me to think about that. We're talking about metal poles, steel poles. You'd think we'd be able to find steel poles.
There's a shortage of electric poles. There's a shortage of transformers. There's a shortage. There's 2 and 3 year lead time to buy certain parts. So those are concerns. And especially with all the data centers coming on and sucking up all the electrical infrastructure parts and things. These are real challenges that people should not take for granted. The services that are provided to them. There's a lot of challenges. The final one I'll leave you with, and we had a legislative meeting this morning. There are real challenges with the ideology of our state government that continuously put policies in place that are not only just directly challenging to local government, like taking revenue from us and things like that we could talk about, but economics and regulations passing. They tried to put in a law last year about heat rules that would make it possible for private and public sector to have employees.
Right.
Family Leave Act,
work outside.
Minimum wage. These are things that just put people out of business, as well as make the cost of governing more expensive. And so it's a vicious cycle. And we need a state policy that's more friendly. I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican, but it's got to be more understanding of the realities of what happens on the front lines of real life.
Right.
And so that's another challenge, certainly, that our state faces, that does impact local government every single day.
And it's one of the most concerning, certainly, when we have our legislators stand up and talk about what's going on at the state level, and it's a very unfortunate circumstance that we're dealing with in Santa Fe. There's just a detachment from reality. There's a lack of, in my opinion, there's a lack of experts, true knowledgeable individuals who are involved in writing these bills, vetting these bills. If we talk about crime in New Mexico, why the chiefs aren't one of the lead people that we're talking to about how we deal with crime in New Mexico. I don't get it. I mean, the fact that this state is so uncompetitive on an economic basis, and we are shrinking as a state because people are leaving here. Our economy stinks, and we continue to attack the industries that, frankly, make this state go. I mean, 50% of the state's revenue is brought in by oil and gas, and we continually see every session an attempt to try and destroy that foundation. And it makes absolutely zero sense. You wouldn't act that way in your own house with your own budget, but you're willing to take the people's money and basically say, we don't need it. Yep. What are we going to be? Yep. Who's New Mexico going to be? And how our city's going to make it? We're very fortunate, Rob, I think, to be here in northwest corner of the state, kind of isolated to some degree. But there's a lot of reasons to live here in Farmington, not the least of which is the fantastic local amenities that we have and the great retail environment that we have in this area, but also the oil and gas jobs that keep this community running forward. And I believe over the next few years will continue to bear fruit here for a very long time. But you can't beat the 4 seasons here in the area. You're going to miss that, I promise you. Yep. Maybe.
I'll be back to New Mexico a lot. Yeah.
I mean, I love today. I've got a son up on the mountain snowboarding, and I could go play golf this afternoon, all in the same day in the same general area. It's a pretty incredible place to live.
It is.
But the people who live here, you mentioned the thing you're most proud of is the people of that organization. The thing that keeps me in Farmington and keeps me going every day is the people as well. We have a tremendous community, and we know it takes just a few apples to spoil the bunch. But overall, we have a generous community, a community that cares, a community that's full of ideas on how things need to be so that we can continue to grow and be sustainable moving forward. And I owe a gratitude, a debt to them for their support and the things that we have done as an organization to improve this community and continue to build on the legacy that's been left by so many others who came before us. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it's really critical.
Absolutely.
You just think about the number of facilities that we've upgraded or we've replaced over the last 12 years, I think, that I've been here almost. Those facilities lasted 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
and
they're running out. Yeah.
And we're running out, and now the money to repair and replace continues to go up. But again, so the generational aspect of it, we certainly stand on the shoulder of giants for those who came before us, and couldn't be more proud to be a part of what is happening here in Farmington.
Yeah, yeah, and I would certainly want that to be my closing thoughts as well. As again, nothing but pure gratitude to our community for their support, their loyalty, their engagement. And none of the things that we've gotten done would not have been done ultimately, obviously, without the support, engagement of the public that wanted to build a good life here in Farmington. Again, that goes back generosity. And so many of the things were so far ahead of their time that we have here now. And we are, people look to us from all over this state and say, and see the things that we have and are envious of them. But they're a result of the will of the people.
People sometimes shy at the word of using progressive. We are a progressive community.
Yes.
We are a forward-looking community. We are engaging on every level when it comes to economic development, to city policies, to our police force. I mean, our police force had cameras and was using that way before it ever became, a national or a state policy. Like we're constantly challenging the process to get better, and that's something our entire community should actually be very proud of, because that's kind of the mindset of leadership all the way down.
Well, Mayor, I'll miss you, and
thanks,
we've had some great times together, and I'm very grateful for your leadership on the political front and your trust in me as city manager.
Well, I've always considered you a friend and a mentor and somebody that I respect, and I know we've not always agreed on everything, but that's a part of it. But I've learned a lot, and I look forward to utilizing that knowledge and experience to benefit other people moving forward. I think that's our responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, Rob Mays with us here today, the city manager retiring here, official title soon. We appreciate his service. We appreciate you and your viewership and the part that you play in this community. We are a community that's constantly looking forward and challenging the processes, and we appreciate your part in supporting the efforts of the City of Farmington to provide clean water, sewer, electricity, roads. We didn't even talk about roads, Rob.
We have great roads.
We have great roads. Continue to move forward and provide a great quality of life here for people of all ages, all backgrounds. We want to continue to work on that, and it takes you, community, to make that happen for so many others. So thank you for tuning in today. Please share this, like this, make sure your neighbors hear and see about it. It's a great story. And we'll see you here next time on the Mayor's Table.